So we'll talk about a few vendors. It's going to be a fairly short touch for each vendor because it's just too difficult to discuss all these vendors completely. So starting off with Microsoft. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that everybody will probably get a Microsoft audit at some point. They are the biggest vendor. It's almost unavoidable. However, within what we see in the industry, is that Microsoft is actually not even the worst. They're one of the friendlier when it comes to audits, so you should definitely be prepared, but it is possible to talk to them. So usually there is a few different options that you might have that they will approach you. The real audits are normally performed by a big four firm and launched by Microsoft LCC, which is a specific entity that is, for example, for EMEA. So in Europe, you should only be receiving these from Ireland. If you're in the US, it will be from a different place. I believe that would be from Seattle, but it could be a bit different. But so practically, if it doesn't come from a big four firm with the LCC entity or the Microsoft central entity, it's not an audit. Technically, you would be under SAM review then, which is an unofficial audit performed by Microsoft SAM partners or even tool vendors in some cases. And officially, they should not be calling the audit clause. Now, in some cases, they might, and obviously you can't really challenge them on that if they do. But for sure, keep track of that because it can be important. And if you would be under a SAM review, it will be voluntarily, usually a bit less intrusive and more cooperative, but also the quality could be lower. And then the last bit is also that beyond these big four firms audits and the SAM reviews, there is sometimes also low touch remote exercises like a verified self audit, which can be performed by a big four firm and also SAM firms, and even Microsoft has their questions sometimes where they just call you up. Then if we go on to a little bit more detail, so what do they usually find? Rich already said, SQL Server, very big risk, always very expensive licenses. Cores versus CPUs, where it can be tricky to keep track of. You need software assurance for your license mobility. It just, adds up. And then the second one, but there's a lot more, is just when it comes to your desktop software, keep track of those enterprise commitments. There is always going to be one or the other that could come in. But the big gotchas, obviously, for most of the vendors, we can't go into everything, so we'll just be high level. For tools, Microsoft is fairly generous and they'll usually work with whatever you have. But if they don't, they have their own toolkit or have purchased Mover, which is now being pushed out a bit more as well. In settlement, like I said, usually it is negotiable. They are one of the friendlier ones. They usually give some options. Obviously, they will see that price tag. They will want to have some return on investment if they see what they could claim, but there is negotiation opportunity. And in frequency, they tend to be to aim for every 3 years to have a touch point, but they might even be increasing that at some point. So definitely be warned if you haven't had any touch point with Microsoft in the last 3 years.